From the JAMA Network, this is the JAMA Medical News Podcast, discussing timely topics in clinical medicine, biomedical sciences, public health, and health policy, featured in the medical news section of JAMA.
On today's show, we're discussing the new dietary guidelines for Americans. I'm Kate Schweitzer, Associate Managing Editor of JAMA Medical News. News Director Jennifer Abbasi is here to talk about her story. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Kate.
So, the updated U.S. dietary guidelines were released in January. You spoke with several nutrition experts about them. What were your takeaways?
Well, the feedback was mixed. On one hand, there was praise for the new guidelines' emphasis on whole foods, including vegetables and fruits. Its strict stance against highly processed foods and sugar. For the first time, children 10 and under are advised to consume no added sugar. Its limits on sodium, and its retention of long-standing advice to consume no more than 10% of calories from saturated fat. But the experts I spoke with also pointed to recommendations and messages they say lack important nuance, conflict with one another, or are simply not backed by science.
What are some examples of that?
Several experts talked about saturated fat. So I mentioned that the new guidelines continue to recommend a 10% cap on calories from saturated fat. A lot of the experts I spoke with were happy to see that recommendation maintained, but they said that other recommendations in the guidelines really conflict with that limit. The guidelines promote protein from animal sources, encourage full-fat dairy, and cite butter and beef tallow as healthy cooking fats. And experts said that a diet built around these foods will very likely exceed the daily saturated fat limit. Dr. Donald Lloyd-Jones, who is principal investigator of the Framingham Heart Study, also told me, and I quote, "Beef tallow is not a healthy source of fat. It's not, period, full stop."
Your story also got into some of the changes with the process for developing the guidelines.
Yes, so the process has been a bit shrouded in mystery over the past year. In December of 2024, the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee submitted their scientific report to the federal agencies that ultimately issue the guidelines. This report is what historically has underpinned the guidelines. But this time, the dietary guidelines were released with a different supporting document called the Scientific Foundation for the Dietary Guidelines for Americans. And unlike with the Advisory Committee report, there was no public comment period, and very limited information on how the new committee that produced the Scientific Foundation document was chosen or how it was developed. One thing that is known is that some members of the committee that produced this new document disclosed relationships with the beef and dairy industries. But the overall concern, experts told me, is just the lack of transparency around the development of this Scientific Foundation document. And this is something the American Society of Nutrition has also called out.
So, Jen, why does what's recommended in the dietary guidelines matter?
That's a really good question. One important thing to know about these recommendations is that they inform nutrition assistance programs in the U.S., including the school lunch program. So when the guidelines emphasize whole foods, full-fat milk, and no added sugar for kids 10 and under, that will impact the meals served in school lunchrooms. I spoke with Dr. David Ludwig, who is a professor of nutrition and pediatrics at Harvard. He said he was happy to see these recommendations that I just mentioned, including full-fat dairy. He said there's a weak evidence base for the benefits of reduced fat milk, and that full-fat dairy has been associated with less weight gain in children. I do want to make one additional point, Kate. When we do a story like this, we tend to report on changes. And while there were some noteworthy changes in the new guidelines, some nutrition experts were really concerned with the messaging around their release that suggests some sort of major overhaul. These guidelines were billed as the most significant reset of federal nutrition policy in our nation's history. But experts told me that the general recommendations to prioritize whole, nutrient-dense foods, protein, dairy, vegetables, fruits, healthy fats, and whole grains, don't stray from previous advice, and that rhetoric suggesting otherwise could harm the public's trust in nutrition science and, in turn, its motivation for actually following the recommendations.
Thanks, Jen. If you'd like to learn more, we'll include a link to Jen's story in the show description. This week, we also published a story I wrote about new research on why males tend to die earlier than females. You can find that and all of our stories at jamamedicalnews.com. Thanks to Jen Abbasi for joining me. I'm Kate Schweitzer. This episode was produced by Daniel Morrow at the JAMA Network. To follow this and other JAMA Network podcasts, please visit us online at jamanetworkaudio.com. Thanks for listening, and join us again next week.
This content is protected by copyright by the American Medical Association with all rights reserved, including those for text and data mining, AI training, and similar technologies.